By Active Care. Put Active Care on active duty. And by Coca-Cola. You can't beat the feeling.
The field is down to the final four in women's singles, and they do battle on centre court today in the Ford Australian Open. The contenders for the crown are headed by defending title holder and Grand Slam champion Steffi Graf, in superlative form since the day this tournament began. Argentine beauty Gabriela Sabatini has survived some tough three-set matches to get this far and has thrived on the competition. And Czechoslovakia's Helena Suková staked her claim for the title with that stunning win over Martina Navratilova. Then there's the dark horse of the field, the tough Kiwi competitor Belinda Cordwell, carving out the best results of her career. Plus, Woodford and McEnroe in partnership again in men's doubles. It's time for semi-final action, the Ford Australian Open, only on the Australian Television Network. Oh yes, what a day it is going to be. The tournament now getting down to the real business end of it, and some tremendous matches today and over the next several days to the finale in this 1989 Ford Australian Open Championship. And it's just another sensational summer's day in Melbourne to go along with the champagne tennis. And on the subject of champagne tennis, we saw plenty of that in quarter-final action in the men's singles here yesterday at Flinders Park. Let's check some results for you. Ivan Lendl, the number 2 seed for the championship and now the hot favourite, defeated John McEnroe in 3 sets. Thomas Muster had a walkover against the injured Stefan Edberg. Jan Gunnarsson made his way into the semi-finals, defeating compatriot Jonas Svensson from Sweden in 4 sets. And Miroslav Machir defeated the 16-year-old youngster from Yugoslavia, Goran Ivanisevic, also in 3 sets. And in women's doubles quarter-final matches, Steffi Graf and Gabriela Sabatini defeated Jo Dury and Mary Jo Fernandez, 3 sets. And the defending champions, Martina Navratilova, Pam Shriver, also through to the semis, defeating Elizabeth Smiley and Wendy Turnbull in straight sets. Well, what have we got on centre court for you today? Well, as we've mentioned, it's ladies semi-finals singles, and this is the way they match up on centre court today. First of all, Belinda Cordwell against Helena Suková. Cordwell ranked 62 in the world, Suková number 6 in the world, and then Steffi Graf, the world's number 1, up against the world's number 3, Gabriela Sabatini. And that will be followed by what's going to be a tremendous men's doubles semi-final. John McEnroe, Mark Woodford teaming up in their 3rd tournament. They've already won 2, up against the all-Aussie combination of Darry. It's going to be a great confrontation. They met in 2 Grand Slam tournaments last year in the finals, or I say the finals, semi-finals of the French and the finals of the United States Open. And on those 2 meetings, the decision was in favour of Steffi Graf. But as I said, Sabatini did have 2 wins over the world champion last year. So this one is anybody's guess. We'll be back to find out more after this break. We're on court for the second women's semi-final. Our commentators for this match, John Barrett, and the much-loved and much-decorated Wendy Turnbull.
So, the players going through the preliminaries there with Richard Ings. And we'll have a look now at how often they've met. As you see, they've met 16 times. Steffi has been successful on 14 occasions. Gabriela 2, and the 2 wins scored by Gabriela were both in 1988 on cement at Boca Raton and at Amelia Island on clay last European spring. And of course I'm just awaiting the arrival of Wendy Turnbull as we look at Steffi Graf's details. Just 19 years old, from Brühl in West Germany. Ranked 1, seeded 1, the current world champion. A semi-finalist first at the US Open in '85. The following year, a semi-finalist again. A winner of the French Open in '87. That was her first Grand Slam title. And a winner here last year of the Australian Open. French Open again last year. Wimbledon and the US Open. And that completed the Grand Slam. It turned into a Golden Slam when she won the Seoul Olympics. And this is how she got here. She didn't drop a set en route. She's beaten everybody there comprehensively, and she's lost just 13 games in those 5 matches. Her opponent, well, one of the most gifted shot makers in the game, Gabriela Sabatini, who's a year younger than Steffi at 18, makes her home in Buenos Aires, a right-hander who's ranked 4 and seeded here 3. A semi-finalist at the French Open 3 times and at Wimbledon in '86. A runner-up at the French Open in doubles in '86, and that was with Steffi, and a runner-up in '87 at the Italian Open. The same year she won in Tokyo and at Brighton. A runner-up in the 1987 Virginia Slims Championships, a title she would win later in '88. A winner in '88 in Italy and in Canada, and a finalist at the US Open. The 16s at Wimbledon last year, a winner of the doubles there after being match point down with Steffi, a winner of those Virginia Slims Championships that I mentioned just now, and a finalist to Steffi again at the Seoul Olympics. And this is how she has got there. A much tougher road for her. 1, 2, 3 times she has lost sets en route, but I think the way she finished against Sina Garrison suggests to me that this is going to be a really tough battle today. And the man who will be in charge of the proceedings is New South Wales's Richard Ings. To centre court here at Flinders Park. As Gary Wilkinson has suggested, a tremendous buzz of excitement around this huge stadium. And I suspect rather that a little bit of a flutter in Wendy Turnbull's tum today after that lovely ceremony down there. And perhaps, Wendy, I could add my own personal congratulations to those of Tennis Australia and the whole nation who will be sad that you're no longer going to play singles.
Ladies
but
and gentlemen, find your seats
don't
quickly,
despair,
please.
folks,
Ready
because
for play.
Wendy is going to go on in doubles, I know, with Liz Smiley, and I hope with John Lloyd in mixed.
Oh yes, I enjoy playing doubles, and it's my way of sort of phasing out of the game by playing doubles in 1989, and John Lloyd and I will be playing some mixed doubles as well. But I'm sure the flutters aren't only in my stomach now, they're probably also in Steffi's and Gabby's. It's a very, very big match.
Play.
And we'll work out all the implications as we proceed.
Love.
This is likely to become one of the great rivalries in tennis. Graf v Sabatini.
Love.
Yes, Chris and Martina have that great rivalry, and people are expecting the same of Gabriela and Steffi.
Going back a little further, Margaret Court and Billie Jean King, Helen Wills Moody and Helen Jacobs. And I think the key here is who can play at their peak and yet remain relaxed. A lot will depend upon how well Steffi is serving today, I think, Wendy.
Yes, and if we see Steffi Graf serve here, very high ball toss, lets the ball drop a little bit, but she still gets all her body weight moving into the ball. A lot of power behind that serve. So the first chance has come for Gabriela. When she played her in the final of the US Open, Peter Graf, who has always been Steffi's coach, was really surprised that Steffi had played so much to Gabriela's backhand.
Game 17.
And that's why Peter was surprised, because it's her best shot, and there's the first break. 1-love, 17.
First game.
The Sabatini supporting group there, headed by
Sabatini
Osvaldo, brother.
Yes, Gabby usually travels with her
Quiet,
parents and her
ladies.
brother.
Thank you.
But this year in Australia, her brother Osvaldo is with her.
Love.
Gabriela has a little unusual service action and cocks her head up here, tosses the ball fairly high and reaches up, hits the ball at quite a good height and with plenty of wrist action.
Yes, that's where the head speed is generated. Essential to good serving, the wrist snap.
All.
For a set at the US Open, which was the first really major final they played last year, Gabriela began to make inroads in the second set. And it's worth discussing that match and the Olympic one that followed it, because they were both played on a court similar to this one, on a cement surface. For a set, Steffi was speeding about, walloping lots of winners on the forehand, but then directed most of her attack to the Gabriela backhand and lost the second set.
15-14.
And at the Olympic Games, it was a real tussle in the early part of the match. The first set eventually going to Steffi 6-3, with much more traffic directed to the forehand, and then an easier second 6-3 set.
Game Graf.
So she's extracted the error again on the forehand at the break point.
1 game all.
And Wendy, I think we all know how fast this young lady is about the court, but the problem for her is the great looping drives deep to the baseline that drive her back from Gabriela here.
Well, there's no other girl on the circuit who hits such heavy topspin like Gabriela Sabatini. And when Chris Evert played Gabby at the Virginia Slims of Florida in March this year, she was so surprised at the heavy topspin. Because you can't even practice against someone who hits such heavy topspin, because there aren't many players like that. Gabby can also really put a lot of power behind her shots, but it's that extreme topspin. And you often wonder how a female like Gabby can get such heavy topspin on her shots, because it takes an awfully strong arm, shoulder, wrist to be able to do that.
Just disbelieving about the ferocity of that last forehand in the rally. And it seems to me that Steffi, not unexpectedly, is really timed to the minute for this match.
And the crowd's certainly
14,
enjoying
13.
the tennis. And Gabriela Sabatini putting heavy topspin on all these shots. And she kept Steffi Graf guessing as to where she was hitting that forehand.
Deuce.
Gabriela proving an opponent worthy of the mettle of this amazing young German, and getting better all the time.
Advantage Sabatini. Deuce.
You know, I've always thought that one of the great qualities of a great sporting achievement is the ability to make you laugh. And really, it's all you can do in seeing a shot as early and as brave as that.
Advantage Sabatini.
Well, she's being set awkward problems already. And certainly in the second set at the US Open, she lost it temporarily on quite a gusty, windy day then. I don't think they'll have that as a factor today. It's a nice, still, but very hot day for tennis.
Game Sabatini.
So a little bit of anxiety creeping in. 3 breaks of serve in succession, leaving Sabatini 2-1 ahead.
Sabatini leads 2 games to 1.
Is she just a little bit anxious and nervous?
Thank you.
Well, I was
Seats quickly,
very
please.
surprised to see that Steffi double faulted on break point. So I think there might be a little bit of nerves in this match.
Quiet, please.
Well, one would expect there would be. And it's still early in the piece, though. Neither player has held serve yet.
Love.
Oh, it looks like Gabriela's saying that it was good.
Yes, she is. Now, this is very interesting.
Sure.
How very sporting. Well, they're great pals, and don't forget doubles players, doubles partners, rather.
Play late for service.
And Richard Ings will bow to Gabriela's wish there and play a let.
Well, that really was sporting
Love 15.
of Gabriela to do that, because it's a very important point, the first point of your service game. You haven't held serve yet. And that was really great sportsmanship.
Love 13.
But that is the danger wing. My goodness, that flashing backhand, it would have been a clean winner. It's deceptive because she hits it with that wristy flick that makes it dip at the last second and then rear up off a length.
$15.30.
Well, Gabriela was determined that ball wasn't coming back. That bounced into the crowd.
30 all.
So the first ace of the match. Well, she has a tendency sometimes to do that, slightly to mishit those backhands, which is often the case with players who hit across the line of flight of the ball so violently.
Well, Bjorn Borg used to hit quite a few mishits as well.
Same reason. There it is.
Game. 2 games all.
So a fascinating situation with nobody yet holding serve, and the girl who does will certainly get a big boost of confidence.
Well, I think when Gabby comes in on Steffi's forehand, when she's at the net, she has to watch for that cross-court forehand from from Steffi.
Love 15.
It's the natural shot for Steffi to play, and she has trouble going down the line off the forehand when someone attacks her forehand. And occasionally, if she stops going cross-court looking for the passing shot, she'll hit a few lobs. So that's what you have to look for.
$15 all.
Because the other factor, if this does become, as it already seems it might, a long duo battle, the physical factor. In the past, Gabriela hasn't been strong enough to maintain her form over a long 3-set match. Certainly that was the case at the US Open. She faded physically in the closing stages. Ah.
$30-15.
Well, Gabby certainly forced Steffi to hit a winning shot here because she was running her all over the court. And Steffi came up with that winning backhand cross-court and lovely roll backhand.
40-15.
Interesting, that previous point, because that's the shot that she's been practicing assiduously with Pavel Slozil, a Czech practice partner. So, a service game is held. Graf, 3-2, first set.
Graf leads 3 games.
And the skyline of Melbourne, which includes the Regent Hotel, from where we sometimes gaze down, courtesy of Gary Wilkinson's bedroom, through our camera installed there at this lovely National Tennis Centre.
Quiet, please. Thank you.
Early days, but the battle well and truly joined. 2-3. So another punishing
Love
rally.
15.
Steffi uses that slice backhand to open up the court.
Yeah, she doesn't waste any time when she gets the short ball and attacks the net and then looks for the cross-court forehand from Gabriela. And Gabriela does like to go cross-court when she's attacked as well.
Yes, with that grip, it isn't easy for her to go down the line. She can lob, and she does lob well sometimes.
Well, that heavy topspin lob, that's well disguised.
Love 13.
Well, that was a little extravagant, but it's a flare shot, that backhand of hers. And she does produce the most amazing winners sometimes.
Love 14.
Steffi keeping the pressure on, forcing her opponent to miss.
Game Graf.
So the mental battle has so far
Graf leads 4 games to 2.
been won by Steffi Graf. We call that the first round, I think. A fascinating battle, proving equally fascinating to Mark Woodford there, I see, who of course was due to play with Steffi in the mix, but they withdrew when play got held up because of that bad weather at the start of the tournament. A very full program, Steffi, with singles and doubles as well.
Love 15.
Well, that's that flare backhand you were talking about, John. It's beautifully struck, turns her shoulders right around. It's right in the corner. It's a perfect backhand.
That's probably her best forehand, the off forehand.
15.
Always looking for the opportunity to run round the backhand, to clout that away from her.
$30-15.
Well, a few more errors creeping into Gabby's game. She knows that she has to get those good deep groundies into play and just putting a little bit more pressure on herself.
$40-15.
Yes, a bit disgusted with the fact that that was a mishit, the backhand return, and landed far too short.
But she anticipated well. She was looking for Steffi's forehand to go cross-court.
Game Graf. New balls, please.
So with her first ace, Steffi Graf moves to 5-2 first set.
Graf leads 5 games to 2.
Welcome back to Flinders Park on semi-finals day for the ladies at the Ford Australian Open
Point, please.
1989. And a vintage performance so far from Steffi Graf, the defending champion, testing Gabriela Sabatini severely.
$15 love.
Well, Gabby attacking the net on that point, and I wonder if she's going to change her tactics a little bit and perhaps try to attack Steffi.
30 love.
Well, it certainly appears that way, doesn't it, John? Gabby hasn't attacked the net very much in this match at all, but these past 2 points, she's changed her tactics around completely. And but when you've got a game like Gabby's, where you hit such heavy topspin and your rallies are long, then it really takes its toll physically.
40 love.
And as John, you said before, she never used to be fit enough to last these long 3-set matches out, but Gabby has worked on her fitness in the past couple of years, and she's getting much stronger.
Game Sabatini.
Good serve, straight at the body.
Graf leads 5 games to 3.
Well, do you read Spanish, John? I think that says, I love you, Gabby. I don't know very much Spanish, but that was pretty easy.
But it's true that the year's difference in age between them will become less important as they each get older.
15 love.
The difference in strength between the 17-year-old and the 16-year-old was considerable, but now less so. And Steffi here has that awful feeling looking over her shoulder that Gabby's catching her up all the time. Oh, that's just marvellous, isn't it?
Well, that's Steffi's least favourite shot, and she hits that one extremely well too, because Gabby puts a lot of pressure on her here, is leaning towards the forehand cross court, but great shot from Steffi.
Thanks very much.
40 love.
So with that good serve and winning forehand, 3 set points. There it is.
First set, Graf.
On the stroke of 30 minutes, Steffi Graf wins the first set 6-3. So in defence of her title, the world champion has made a good start. And I'm wondering how much effect the heavier balls here will have on the likely outcome today.
Second set, Sabatini.
Well, Steffi hits the ball so hard, and with such control. I think normally against anybody else, I would say that they would help Gabriela.
Love 15.
Because she hits it with such heavy topspin, but playing against someone like Steffi who hits the ball so hard, maybe Steffi's balls stay in a little bit more with the balls being a little heavier.
Love 30.
Gabriela, who hasn't played here before at the Australian Open. She usually rests at this time of the year, but with the growing status of this event and her challenge to Steffi getting stronger, she knew she had to be here.
Well, you can't be in the top 10 in the world and not play in the Grand Slam events.
Now, we should remind Andre Agassi of that fact.
Love 40.
Well,
So,
Gabby's in trouble here now.
very deep return.
Love 40 on her first service game of the second set, and she does not want to lose this service game.
Game
But
Graf.
she has the champions on the march. 1 love already, second set.
First game, second set.
Well, Pavel Slozil, who for a couple of years now has been the regular practice partner of Steffi Graf, former Czech Davis Cup player, he should be very, very pleased indeed. He's tuned his charge quite beautifully.
$15 love.
Question of getting the player in the right frame of mind getting them confident to be hitting their best shots well.
And that's probably one of the softest forehands you'll see hit by Steffi. No sense hitting it hard if you don't have to.
Long.
Well, that's 11 points in a row Steffi has won.
Graf leads 2 games to 0.
So there is the Regent Hotel's vantage point, overlooking this site on the edge of the Yarra there, with the #1 court and the #2 court beside the giant stadium in which we sit. Love to. Some 15,000 people it will hold.
Lot 15.
Don't know whether I'm imagining it, but it seems to me that Gabriela here is just half a yard slower than she was in the US Open final.
Well, I think that it's a little hot out there today, and playing someone like Steffi. And a good tactic here from Gabby. Serving and volleying once again. I think it's catching Steffi off guard. Sometimes when a player is a little slower, it's because she's a little nervous and hasn't got the adrenaline flowing. The occasion is sort of getting to her.
Not to mention her opponent's shots.
15-30.
It is going particularly well today, that famous forehand, isn't it?
Well, Steffi is certainly dictating the play out there now, and Gabriela hasn't got much sting on her ground strokes at the moment. Not given the opportunity to put that heavy topspin on it. But Gabby has been quite successful when she's attacked the net. Of course, it's always been a surprise move by her.
It would help enormously if those close serves were all going in, wouldn't it?
Game Graf.
Leaning backwards, another error, and 3-love, 2 breaks to Steffi Graf.
Graf leads 3 games to 0.
And with that view, the wide open roof and the sunlight bearing down, glaring down on a court surface that's hot.
Thank you. Quiet, please.
Made hotter, I think, by the skill today of Steffi Graf. She's burning up this court with her winners.
15 low.
Yes, I wonder what Steffi would register on the thermometer. She's very hot at the moment.
15 all.
One of the very rare forehand errors, and that's what happens when the ball is as deep as that was and kicking up.
$30-15.
Perfect. Footwork is
40-15.
absolutely beautiful here. Watch what Steffi does there. Just those two little shuffle steps to get her room to hit that forehand down the line. My goodness, 17 winners.
Yep. 40-30.
Hot work watching as well as playing.
Game Graf.
She's being run ragged, isn't she?
You're absolutely right.
Graf leads 4 games to love.
Steffi's moving Gabby around the whole court, and Steffi's the one who's on her toes, ready for the next shot from Gabby, and Gabby's just, as you said, a little bit too slow today.
Well, I wonder if she can find a way out of this difficulty that she's in.
15 love.
Well, it's not going to be easy if she does find a way out, because it's 6-3, 4-love to the Grand Slam champion, and she's not going to give in without a fight.
Again, you want to chuckle, don't you, when you see these audacious winners?
$15-30.
Well, it is hot down there. We've just taken a reading down there. 61 degrees on the court. That's the surface of the court.
15-40.
And in old parlance, that's about 142.
Oh, I hate to even think about it. That is very hot, and we saw that Gabby had, or Steffi had, more forehand winners, and we see
30-40.
and we see that Gabriela has more unforced errors.
Hardly surprising. She's being run from corner to corner.
Well, Gabby was ready to come in behind that first service.
Fault. Game Graf.
Well, that first double fault from Gabriela loses her a third service game in this set, and 5-love to the champion. Well, there is a most impressive scoreline.
Thank you.
thanks to a near-perfect display from the world champion,
please.
who now serves for the match.
$15 love.
And Wendy, I wonder whether Gabby here is affected by the heat. It's 33 degrees, that's 91 Fahrenheit, the air temperature. And all that reflected heat from this very hot floor.
Well, I think it will be bothering her a little bit out there. Gabriela has to put more effort into her shots because of the topspin, and then Steffi's been running her around so much that I'm sure she's feeling the heat a lot more than Steffi.
Well, I think the merciful thing is she's probably not going to have to put up with this heat very much longer.
Well, I think she'd like to stay out there a little bit longer than she's been. But Gabriela has had a couple of tough matches. In her quarterfinal match, she beat Garrison in 3 sets, and then in the 4th round, Raffaella Reggi in 3 sets. So she's had some tough matches.
40-30.
And served like a champion. A second ace, that's all she served. 2 aces today, but they've been quite enough, because now, match point. That's
Game,
it.
set, match draw. 2 sets to love, 6-3, 6-1.
Well, surely one of the most comprehensive and one-sided victories that Gabriela Sabatini has had to endure at the hands of this remarkable young lady, who now has been in 10, or is in her 10th consecutive Grand Slam final. There were 9 consecutive Grand Slam semi-finals. She's been in every Grand Slam final since the 1987 French Open. Later that year, of course, she was beaten by Navratilova at Wimbledon and the US Open, but every time she's appeared in the final.
Well, we're not surprised by the statistics here. 56% of first serves in for Gabby, and when she got her first serve in, 80% of the time she won those points. 60% of first serves in for Gabriela Sabatini, and only won 47% of the points off her first serve. The big thing was really the forehand winners, 18 for Steffi and only 1 for Gabby. How surprising is that? Unforced errors, though, 13 for Gabby, only 8 for Steffi. Forced errors, 19 for Gabby and 14 for Steffi. And it's really not surprising when you look at that forehand winner stats. Steffi really dominated the match, and it's been the most one-sided match they've ever played.
So what an extraordinary performance. It's left the crowd here stunned. Helena Suková will face the defending champion in the final, and we'll be back shortly with more tennis.
No doubt about who's number one, is there? Steffi Graf through to the final in 3 straights. Very comprehensive result there over Gabriela Sabatini, 6-3. Graf got a big one coming up. Darren Cale, Mark Kratzmann, they defeated John McEnroe and Mark Woodford to get through to the final, 3-6, 6-3, 6-4, 7-5. And, of course, their opponents will be Ricky Leach and Jim Pugh in the men's doubles final. Now, tomorrow, this is what we've got. Ivan Lendl, the number 2 seed, and logical favourite now, I think, for the title versus Thomas Muster from Austria. Miloslav Machir against the unexpected Swede, Jan Gunnarsson. And then a semi-final of the mixed doubles in what should be a very, very entertaining match. Australia's Peter Doohan and Elise Bergen of the United States against Sherwood Stewart, one of the great characters still on the tennis court, and Zina Garrison. So a ton more entertainment to come for you in the Ford Australian Open Championships for 1989, only on the Australian Television Network, 11 o'clock tomorrow morning.
7 Summer of Tennis has been proudly brought to you by NEC, leaders in computers, communications and entertainment. By Nilex, nothing on earth's as good as Nilex. By ICI Vet Care, the vet's own brand. And by Cousins, makers of quality soaps, toiletries and household products. This has been a 7 Sport presentation for the Australian Television Network. The Australian